The case is similar with many kinds of commodities. The ease with which a single specimen can be supplied in return for money devalues it in relation to money, which now appears as a ruling power disposing over the object. But the significance of the class of object as a whole seems incommensurable with money. It has a value independent of money, which is often concealed from our notice by the fact that the single specimen can so easily be replaced. However, since our practical economic interests are almost exclusively concerned with single units or with a limited number of units, our sense of the value of objects generally employs the measuring rod of money. This is evidently connected with the overriding interest in possessing money rather than commodities. The unearned increment of wealth. This leads to a more general phenomenon, which might be termed the surplus value of wealth and which resembles the unearned rent of land. The wealthy man enjoys advantages beyond the enjoyment of what he can buy with his money. The merchant supplies him more reliably and more cheaply than he does poorer people. Everyone he meets, whether likely to profit from his wealth or not, is more deferential. He moves in an ideal atmosphere of unquestioned privilege. One can observe everywhere all manner of small privileges being granted to the purchaser of expensive goods and to the first-class traveler, privileges that have as little connection with the objective value as has the friendly smile of the merchant with the more expensive goods that he is selling. These privileges are a gratuitous supplement, and their most painful feature is perhaps that the consumer of cheaper goods, who is denied them, cannot complain that he is being cheated. This can be best illustrated by a very minor instance. The streetcars in some cities have two separate classes which differ in price, although the more expensive class offers no material advantage in the way of greater comfort. What the traveler buys with his first-class ticket is the right to join the exclusive company of those who pay such a higher price in order to be separated from the second-class passengers. Thus the well-to-do individual can acquire an advantage simply by spending more money, without necessarily receiving a material equivalent for his expenditure. Viewed from the outside, it may seem that this is the opposite of an unearned increment, because the well-to-do individual receives relatively less, not relatively more, for his money. But the unearned increment of wealth appears here in a negative, but pure, form. The rich man gains an advantage without recourse to an object and exclusively by virtue of the fact that other people cannot spend as much money as he can. Wealth, indeed, is often regarded as a kind of moral merit, as is indicated by the term respectability and by popular references to the well-to-do as upright citizens or the better-class public. The same phenomenon is shown from the other side by the fact that the poor are treated as if they were guilty, that beggars are angrily driven away, and that even good-natured people consider themselves naturally superior to the poor. When it was decreed in 1536 that the journeyman locksmiths in Strasbourg who earned more than 8 kreutzer should have a holiday on Monday afternoons, a bonus was given to those who were better off, when moral logic suggests that it should have been given to the needy. It is not uncommon for the unearned increment of wealth to attain such a degree of perversity, practical idealism, when it is manifested in the unpaid scientific work of a wealthy man, is generally more highly esteemed than is the work of a poor schoolteacher. This usurious interest upon wealth, these advantages that its possessor gains without being obliged to give anything in return, are bound up with the money form of value. For those phenomena obviously express or reflect that unlimited freedom of use which distinguishes money from all other values. This it is that creates the state of affairs in which a rich man has an influence not only by what he does, but also by what he could do. A great fortune is encircled by innumerable possibilities of use, as though by an astral body, which extend far beyond the employment of the income from it on the benefits which the income brings to other people. The German language indicates this by the use of the word Vermögen, which means to be able to do something, for a great fortune. These possibilities, only a small number of which can be realized, are nevertheless put to account psychologically. They convey the impression of an indeterminate power which is not confined to the achievement of a particular result, and this impression is all the stronger the more mobile and more easily available for any purpose the possessions are, that is to say, the more the fortune consists of money or is convertible to money, and the more distinctly money itself has become a tool and a point of transition without any purpose of its own. The pure potentiality of money as a means is distilled in a general conception of power and significance which becomes effective as real power and significance for the owner of money. It is like the attraction of a work of art, which is produced not only by its content and the associated psychological reactions, but by all the accidental, individual and indirect complexes of feeling that it makes possible. Only the indeterminate sum of these feelings circumscribes the whole value and significance of a work of art. The difference between the same amount of money as part of a large and of a small fortune, if this interpretation of the unearned increment of wealth is correct, then the increment will be greater when the circumstances of the owner provide better opportunities and more freedom to use it. A poor man has the fewest opportunities, because his money income is adequate only for the basic needs of life and allows almost no latitude in the choice of uses. This latitude increases with increasing income, and each unit of the growing income becomes more valuable to the extent that it differs from those units that are necessary for the satisfaction of basic and predetermined needs. That is, each additional unit of income includes a larger proportion of unearned increment, though of course this is only the case up to a relatively high level of income, beyond which each unit of income is equal in this respect. Here the phenomenon we are considering can be seen in a particular context, and in a way that seems to me especially fruitful. Many commodities are available in such abundance that they cannot all be consumed by the well-to-do members of society, and they have to be offered to the poorer strata of society if they are to be sold at all. The prices of such goods cannot be higher than these strata are able to afford. One might refer to this as the law of consumer's price limitation, according to which the price of a commodity can never exceed the amount that the social strata to whom the available supply must be offered is able to pay. This may be interpreted as an application of marginal utility theory to the social scene. Instead of the least urgent need that can still be satisfied by a commodity, it is the need of those with the least ability to pay that becomes decisive for price formation. This phenomenon involves a tremendous advantage for the well-to-do, since the indispensable goods are now available to him at a much lower price than he would be willing to pay if necessary. Because the poor man has to buy the simple necessities of life, he makes them cheap for the wealthy man. Even if the latter had to spend the same proportion of his income as the poor man for his basic needs, food, shelter, and clothing, he would still have more money left for luxuries. Instead, he has the additional advantage that he can satisfy his basic needs with a relatively smaller part of his income, and with the remaining part he has freedom of choice in the use of his money, which makes him an object of respect and deference beyond his actual economic income. The pecuniary resources of the poor are not surrounded by this sphere of unlimited possibilities, because they immediately and undoubtedly terminate in very definite purposes.